year, I wonder. Joined now live on Facebook as well. I've got Gordon Thomas and Fraser Watson. So I'll start off with a happy new year, Gordon.
Happy New Year, Tom. I've heard you've had a bit of a torrid time. You haven't been very well.
I haven't. I've been I've been in the sick bay, in bed, but I'm back and sprightly. And for everyone here on Facebook, hello.
It's all those pantos you've been doing. Oh yes.
Oh
no,
yes.
you haven't. It's good to see you back anyway.
Yeah, no, it's good to be back. And hello, Fraser. Happy New Year to you as well.
Hi, Tom. New Year, new me. And same old Swansea. Down there yesterday to see them have about 99% of possession and not win. But good away trip. But no, good to see you up and well, Tom.
Yeah, and of course the thing about festivities and Christmas and Boxing Days and New Year's Eves, there's been fixtures aplenty over the last couple of weeks. Fraser.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've got a bit out on Boxing Day actually, despite some inclement weather. But it's amazing when clubs can have a full house there and make hundreds and £1,000s behind the bar. All of a sudden they go through hell and high water to get the games on. But no, we did have a bad Christmas period there. Actually, Haverfordwest obviously had their usual big day at Langham, comfortable win, and there was a day at St David's as well. But we've had some league action since as well, which has been nice to see.
Indeed, and we focused primarily on the rugby in the first half of the show. We're going to touch on that a little bit later on, but Gordon, plenty of rugby going on and some good, well, there's very much a mix, isn't there, between the divisions of very competitive fixtures and also this bit of a gap in the lower divisions as well. What's the answer? What's going to happen?
Are we talking rugby or are we going to talk football?
Well, I'm just previewing the rugby because we started off with the rugby and then I'm going to loop back to the football. Don't worry, I've got it. It's all up here.
Yeah, I actually popped to Pembroke on Saturday for a little bit and they were playing Newcastle Emlyn, Fraser. Again, Pembroke totally out of their depth. I don't like to say that about any Pembrokeshire side, but Newcastle Emlyn were far too strong for them up front and behind, and they won by 50 odd points at the final whistle. Pembroke, to be fair, they give it their best, but unfortunately that division looks as though relegation's staring them right in the face, and I can see them getting relegated at the end of the season. But every team finds their level, Fraser, don't you think? Anyway, it doesn't matter what division you're in.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the problem there is they would have been relegated in that COVID season. Sometimes you do need to go down, even if you don't want to. You know that as well. You know, they obviously then had the half season last year when there's no relegation, which spared them again. And and whilst you're surviving all those times, all you're actually doing is building up a lot of defeats. And a lot of maybe not necessarily disharmony, but it is hard to stay positive. We have to face it again this year, and obviously the possible restructure next year, which may stop them going down again, which would mean a fourth year in a division where they struggle to be competitive, and that could have really detrimental long-term effects. So, no, you're absolutely right. They do need to find their level.
Yeah, and talking about the same division, Fraser, Whitland have suffered the same sort of fate. They I believe, have won a couple of games, but they have struggled of late in that division as well. And whereas Crimmock are absolutely flying.
Well, yeah, and we just heard from Elgin Bittle, so we'll come back and talk about that because Crimmock have got Newcastle Emlyn coming up, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But you are right, Gordon. We are going to talk football on what is quite. Well, it's going to be a day to be remembered both in Wales men's football and Wales women's football. I'm going to start off first of all by posing the question: Gareth Bale, is he the greatest Welsh footballer, or is he the greatest footballer full stop to come from these shores? But also, Fraser, I want to also mention Gemma Grainger, the Wales women's manager, has also signed a 2-year contract extension also today. So we're looking at the future of the Welsh women's game and the end of a fantastic playing career. So let's touch on Gemma Grainger first. I really like Wales under her more aggressive style.
Yeah, I don't think there's any great surprise. She took them, didn't she, to the brink of an international tournament, took them to playoff space they'd never been before, and they've made obvious progress under here. So very exciting extension to commit to one more campaign, Tom. And, I think it was inevitable, and I think you're right. She's got some young players in, she can build on that in this next campaign as well. So, yeah, I wasn't remotely surprised to see her rewarded, I'll be honest.
Yeah, and then Gordon, I posed that question. Thomas Tudor has already replied. He's watching us live on the Facebook. Greatest footballer from these shores, let alone Wales. Gareth Bale retires from not just international football, but all football at the age of 33.
Yeah, well, his record speaks for itself, doesn't it, Tom Fraser? I mean, 111 games for Wales, played for Tottenham, Southampton, Real Madrid, Champions League, won titles with them. He's done it all, to be fair, and he is probably the best player that's ever played in a Welsh shirt. That's hard to say it, because everybody, my sort of generation will say John Charles, Ivor Allchurch, but Gareth Bale was an elite footballer, and he was exceptional talent, and he was a man for the big moment as well. In a Welsh shirt, Ryan Giggs got criticised a lot for not playing enough for his country. We could never say that about Gareth Bale. He was always there, and he always came at trumps when we needed a goal. He would be the man who did it. Unfortunately, the World Cup didn't go to plan this year, but we got there. The guys that I've mentioned before me, and you can say Ian Rush, Mark Hughes, and there's a host of them, never even played in a World Cup. Mm-hmm. So, yes, Gareth Bale is probably the best player that we've ever produced on these shows. And I mean, I'd put him up there with Messi and Ronaldo. You know, mm-hmm. he's equally as talented as those guys, but they've had far better company around them at the same time as well. So, yeah, Bale is a fantastic footballer.
Yeah, Fraser, up there with Messi and Ronaldo.
Yeah, I'm not so sure about that. I certainly agree he's the greatest player Wales has ever produced. I don't think that's even a debate. You can argue about the others who have maybe graced the shirt for short periods. No one has done it for as long as he has at that level in the Welsh shirt, and Gordon just touched on it then. No one has produced in as many big moments as he has. And even when he wasn't at his best, even when he was mediocre at times in Wales games, he still produced big moments, you know. And towards the end of his career, when physically he was waning a bit, we saw in that playoff semi-final, we saw in that playoff final, he stood at 2 goals to get them past Austria, the free kick to get them past Ukraine. That's what he did, you know, even when he wasn't at his best. It was no coincidence as he would keep providing the pivotal moment in Wales games. And you look even at that World Cup and look, it was a campaign too far to him. He was obviously physically waning, the team wasn't performing. You still go back to the one moment of glory, if you like, he produced it. Gareth Bale standing up with the USA. You know, and look, there'll be some old timers now who'll get on my back and be quoting John Charles because he had no bookings and he won the odd header. But no, Gareth Bale is the greatest Wales has ever produced. He's in the debate for the greatest UK player, certainly we've ever produced, club footballer, when you look at not just the amount of Champions League titles he's won, but what he's contributed in those finals, Liverpool and Atletico Madrid in particular. He's in that debate, which we've had for a very long time, but he deserves to be mentioned in that echelon for sure.
Yeah, his statistics of scoring goals and assisting goals in those big finals are quite unmatched, really. I've got a list here. He's got 5 Champions Leagues, 4 FIFA Club World Cups, 3 La Liga titles, 3 UEFA Super Cups, 3 Spanish Super Cups, 1 Spanish Cup, 1 English League Cup, and 1 MLS Cup. That's a pretty big trophy cabinet.
Yeah, it's a fine collection, to be fair. But what next for Gareth Bale? What does the future hold for him now?
Indeed, I believe his statement finished with 3 dots. To be continued, so we'll find out. But a little bit closer to home, Fraser, you mentioned that you were with the away fans yesterday. Some homegrown talent shining on the pitch, though.
Yeah, there was actually. Instead of a Christmas, potentially this has been a defining period. I hope a defining period in Liam Cullen's Swansea career. You know, for so long it's been quite a curious career there, hasn't it? Because they put a lot of long-term faith in without him ever starting regularly. He came on, he scored late goals as a substitute against Coventry, and then Reading. He was rewarded with a start against Watford. I was there that night. He assisted a goal, he scored one, and he thought then that was a potential turning point there. He then started the next 2 games. He had the assist for Piro's goal on Sunday. Finally now, we're seeing him have a run of games together. We're seeing him play an important role on a regular basis for Swansea, and that's what he's craved for so long. So I really hope that this little Christmas period, even though it hasn't been a great one for Swansea, could have actually kick-started him after such frustrating times. So well done to him. Bit of controversy there because some clever side in Swansea is dubbed in the Temby Messi, which is essentially declaring war on Kilgetty. It hasn't gone down well, but more importantly, great to see him finally flourishing there.
That's great. I think it was it a year ago that he had his injury, and he was having a bit of run of form, and then he had that ankle injury that
actually 2 years ago, yeah, in an FA Cup game actually, when he scored twice against Nottingham Forest, and that you thought that was his sliding doors moment. Injury put pay to that, so hopefully this has been now.
Actually, he was on the show here as well, Fraser, talking about that, wasn't he? I wonder whether we would be able to get him on the show now that he's a first team regular.
We know what happened to Joe Allen, good.
You've just mentioned Joe Allen there. Of course, he's been part of that Wales team with Gareth Bale, all these memories from the last couple of years. And he showed signs of his youth as well.
Yeah, as good as I've ever seen him since his return to Swansea, actually. I said at the time, I thought in terms of quality, it was a no-brainer. But it was a risk, given his age and his recent injury record. And because of that, injuries actually hasn't really got going at Swansea. We saw he came in belatedly to the World Cup squad. And, the difficult situation of having so long without action and being pushed into a pressure situation there. And it unfortunately didn't really end too well from a Welsh point of view. But yesterday, you saw him on the ball. You saw him breaking up. Bristol attacks, and you saw him making a huge difference. It was an energetic display and as quality display as I've seen from him since he returned.
Yeah, it's amazing to think, Fraser. I think Joe would be about 32 now, and Bale is 33, and Bale's retired, and Joe's still, performing in the middle of the park, which is a tough position to play in. But he's a great player. He is a great player, a great asset for Swansea.
Yeah, of course he is, and I hope his second spell can now go on and be a good one for him, because he deserves that good thing.
Yeah.
Well, then hopefully he's going to be a little bit of the talisman with Bale going. He could well become one of the talismen for Wales going forward into this next qualifying campaign. So I hope he stays. Gordon, a little bit even closer to home than Kilgetty. The fixtures in the divisions. I know one of the divisions, all the games were postponed off, but one result which caught my eye. Clarby Road 2.
Yeah.
2.
Yeah, what an epic game that was down at Phoenix Park. I mean, Goodwick already lost against the Bridge there just before Christmas, and Clarby Road have actually showed some good form of late. In the earlier fixture, Tom, Goodwick won 7-3 at Clarby, so you were expecting Chris O'Sullivan's boys to turn them over quite comfortably. Didn't work out that way. 2-0 down, goal in each half for Clarby, put Goodwick under immense pressure. And to be fair, as good sides do, they do fight back. And Scott Delaney got one back. And in the 96th minute, Ross Jones, who came off the bench, got the equaliser. So they managed a point, but they're now 5 points behind leaders Merlins Bridge, who they actually play this Saturday.
Indeed, Fraser, that's going to be quite a fixture.
Yes, it is, especially with the result. Obviously, a few weeks ago, Goodwick 2-1 up, went down to actually 9 men, ended up losing 3-2, and we thought that was a pivotal turning point. Look, Saturday's a blow for them, despite the comeback. It's amazing how often Clarby Road do seem to play a hand in this title race, if you remember that.
I didn't mention it, Fraser, but Rob Morgans, who used to play for Goodwick, fired in the early penalty, and Matthew Griffiths got the second one. So,
I don't know what went on in Qatar, but Rob Morgans was a Goodwick player when he left. He was out there with a Clarby boy, and by the time he came back, he was signing for Clarby. So I don't know. I think I'd overbuy drinks out there, but no, it had to be him, didn't it? That's a goal. But look, Clarby are a difficult team. Like I just said, they so often play a role in this title race by taking results off the top teams, and. I think there's a long way to go. There's a lot of twists to go, especially with the backlog of games that it's going to be, that's for sure. But, Goodwick will want to drop anything more against Merlins Bridge now on Saturday. It's all of a sudden, it's a massive, massive test for them.
Yeah, Stephen Price is watching us on YouTube, actually. He's saying, up the Wizards. There's confidence in that camp, though, isn't there?
Neutral as ever there, Pele. And rightly so. They lost in the first day to Tenby and to Care, and haven't lost since, if that's right, Gord. So,
correct. Yeah, correct,
so.
Price.
Everyone's talking about a rebuilding year. No denying it now. They talk about rebuilding, you can talk about caution. They're in this title race. They simply are. So, rightly so.
And yourself, points on the board count for everything, doesn't it? When you're chasing, it's always a lot harder. But they have the points on the board.
Especially with the potential backlog this season.
Yes. Yeah.
Talking of backlogs, Haken have still got their run of matches to go. Now they finished at the end of last season with lots of matches towards the end of the season. We're half kind of towards the halfway point now. But if you're Merlins Bridge and you're Haken and you're Goodwick, if you're Haken in particular, what are you thinking at this stage in the season?
I wish we'd played a few more games.
I mean, I'm not saying it's right, but we've seen it with a lot of Pembrokeshire teams over the years, haven't we? That When you enter a lot of cup competitions, when you do well in them, it can hamper you in the league, because it does mean a lot of midweek games and a lot of backlog. Obviously, their senior cup game with Bridge, ironically, was called off on Saturday, which obviously with the registration issue maybe doesn't totally have too many first team players, but they would have wanted that out of the way, win or lose, just for the sake of getting back in the league campaign. But at this point, Tom, I don't think these teams have been in title races before. They know it's a long way.
Yeah, they know what it's about.
Yet, we're talking about important results and dropping points, but there's nothing pivotal yet. There's nothing defining. There'll be a lot to come. And a lot to come at the bottom as well, which obviously a few twists there on Saturday too.
Well, I was just about to mention the relegation of that division is just as hotly anticipated as the top end of that division. It's the usual names at the top, but the bottom.
Yeah.
Gordon,
well, I actually did pop to Neyland on Saturday. We were playing bottom St Clair's, and I tell you who did. He shone well for me, Fraser, was Fletcher Picton, Collins lad. He actually scored the first goal and the fifth goal. It was a ding-dong battle, to be fair. St Clair's played their part in it. I think it was 2-2 at half-time, and then it went 3-2 to Neyland, 3-3, and then they got 2 late goals to three very important points, as Fraser knows, because Neyland were actually relegated, so they're making the most of staying in that division, and it was a tie they had to, a game they had to win.
I now have concerns for St Clair's. I really do. They obviously lost a couple of boys.
They have.
Will Lewis, I'd argue, has been their best attacking player of the years. Has gone to Bridge. Nick Squire, who's a big influence there as a player manager, has contributed to Bridge as well. Not sure what's going on there.
I think you mean Will Evans, yeah?
Will Evans, sorry.
That's okay then.
And Nick Squire obviously been a big influence to come back.
Yeah, they are, Fraser. Yes.
So I'd worry about that. And Penn drawing with Tish. Obviously, Penn. That leaves them both on 8 points, but Tish played 4 more games, so I think it was a game that probably Tish needed to win more than Pennard did. But it's tight down there.
It is tight down there. It's going to be an interesting tussle to see who goes down.
Yeah. So refresh my memory. St Clair's, they went up this season, is that right? With Kilgetty? 2 seasons ago. Well, I've lost a year somewhere.
I know. COVID's thrown us all, Tom. Don't worry about it.
COVID and Panto season.
Yeah, that's what it is.
It's a mixture.
Because of course at St Clair's, they had a good run. This is my memory. Hopefully I'm serving right. They had a good run in the cup as well, didn't they? In
West Wales. Yeah.
Fletcher Picton, quality young centre forward. Stephen Price agreeing with you there.
Well, funny Pele should agree with me. He actually played for Merlins Bridge youth team at one time, so I know why you agree with me, Pele.
It's a small world. So just to kind of round up then the football then, Fraser, we are halfway. I know that during some of the interviews after 7 o'clock, you were asking some of the coaches what their aspirations were. Are they now heading towards victory? This halfway point of the season, what's important for these clubs now to consolidate as we run into kind of springtime, like the winter and spring?
I think the important thing for all of them, whatever situation, is to play regular games now.
Yeah, consistency is the word.
We've had the usual frustration. We've seen the weather that's come in. There's going to be more of that in January. Moments. They just want to get regular games done. The last thing we need, after everything that's gone on in the last 2 or 3 years, is another disrupted season, to be honest with you. So, whatever, promotion, relegation, cup ties, whatever, you just want to get back to playing regular Saturdays. It's difficult enough as it is when you've had a period over Christmas, because obviously training and then matches drop off. So we just want to see regular Saturdays with all games going on, and that applies to all sports really.
Yeah, and talking of all sports, we're gonna take a moment and we're gonna return to a bit more rugby chat and about this consistency in getting matches played. And of course, the WRU have proposed some changes to make sure that matches do continue. So I'll give Fraser and Gordon some time to ponder this. What are your thoughts at home with these new proposals, such as 12-a-side? To try and get these fixtures fulfilled, and is your club having a consistency crisis as well? We want to hear from you. You can either comment on our social media. We're live on Facebook, Twitter and YouTube at the moment, or you can drop me a message on our WhatsApp as well, 01437 764455. We're going to take a moment now and we're going to return and talk a little bit of rugby. It's 24 minutes past 8 o'clock.
Eaton Evans and Morris Solicitors have traditional